Hello, you're watching the Europe Report on France 24, a special show we're running during the European election campaign. It's a vote that's likely to splinter the political landscape, bringing more parties from the fringes into the EU Parliament after the final voting on May 26th. On the Europe Report, we've not only got campaign highlights, we're also taking you behind the scenes at the Parliament and debunking some infamous Euro myths. Well, first, let's bring you up to speed on exactly what the European Parliament is. It's the body that scrutinises and amends proposals for EU laws. The proposals themselves come from the European Commission. The EU Parliament is the world's only directly elected transnational assembly. The elections happen every 5 years, and this year there are more than 400 million eligible voters in 28 member states. And yes, that does include the UK. Voting's taking place from May 23rd to 26th. The majority of EU states, including France, will be voting on Sunday, May 26th. Well, France's would-be Euro politicians are officially on the campaign trail as of today. There are 34 lists in total. That is a record for France. So alongside the major national parties, there's also, for example, a royalist party, an animal rights party, even a list made up entirely of candidates younger than 30 years old. Not all of them will be able to send MEPs to the Parliament, though. In France, only lists that attract 5% of the vote or more can do that. It's actually even been reported that the mayors of some towns have been having trouble finding enough boards to accommodate all the posters for all 34 lists. Well, moving on, a major question that many people ask is what powers does the European Parliament have? It's actually the only directly elected body of the European Union. Some say it's powerless, including a former French president. So let's get a bit of an explainer. Here's Roxane Runel with Fact or Fake.
Is the European Parliament powerless?
The European Parliament is not that important. Its only role is to make sure texts coming from the Commission are constitutional. It does not have any political power.
Former French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing is not the only person to wrongly underplay the role of the European Parliament. Back when he was MEP, leader of the far-left France Insoumise party, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, went as far as saying the European Parliament's powers were fake. So let's clarify. First of all, it is the Commission that is in charge of making sure treaties are being respected in line with the EU's own laws, not the Parliament. It's actually the body that checks up on the Commission. It even has the power to demand the Commission resign via a no-confidence vote. Over the years, via successive treaties, its powers have grown. In 2007, the Parliament became co-legislator in 85 different domains. That means the European Parliament and the Council have to come to a perfect agreement to pass laws in these domains. There are a few areas where the Parliament does not get a say. Competition policy and foreign affairs are the most notable examples. Finally, by amending texts introduced by the Commission, the European Parliament galvanizes political support behind new directives, regulations, and, most importantly, the budget. It is therefore a true legislative body.
Meanwhile, our team has been out and about over the last few weeks around the continent, hearing about the issues that matter most in 11 of the member states. That's on the France 24 Europe tour. Our first stop was right here in France. It is, of course, a founder member of the EU and has 47 million eligible voters. French people get to elect 74 members of the European Parliament. As you're probably aware, France's yellow vest protests have been particularly massive and rowdy, and they've caught the attention of the president. Over recent weeks, Emmanuel Macron and his government have embarked on a massive national listening exercise called the Great National Debate. Our reporter Clovis Kazali went to find out whether the people are feeling heard.
Brittany, Dordogne, Burgundy, Normandy. Across France, some 500,000 people took part in Emmanuel Macron's grand debate.
Et ne l'oubliez jamais.
The consultation was the president's answer to the yellow vest crisis his side did not see coming.
I think we maybe underestimated the sense of urgency. We thought we had a few years ahead of us to improve the economy, to help the country's businesses invest again.
350 kilometers south of Paris, the town of La Souterraine stands as a symbol of rural France. The Creuse is one of the poorest and most deserted areas in the country. To make things worse, the main train station is in danger.
I once knew this station running day and night. There were trains constantly. Now everything's going away. There's nothing left for the countryside.
Regional authorities and the SNCF railway company are slashing 2 out of 3 jobs at the station. Vending machines will replace the staff. Mr. K is worried. This visually impaired physiotherapist takes the train every day.
France's motto is liberty, equality, fraternity. But if a disabled person can't go out, he's not free. If he has no human support, where's the fraternity? And if he can't go to work, then there's no equality.
The Creuse department was created during the French Revolution, and here people won't give up without a fight. But the local Yellow Vests have protested peacefully despite the general feeling of despair. Retired farmer Gérard joined the movement with his nephew Olivier, who's been struggling to make ends meet since he switched to organic farming.
Did you get the subsidies for going organic?
Still nothing.
Okay, so nothing for the past 3 years, right?
Not a single centime.
The French state has failed to pay Olivier his subsidies, citing software problems. He can't even pay himself his usual salary of €300 a month. Gérard gets a state pension of €652 a month and hopes the Yellow Vests will be heard without standing in the European elections.
The Yellow Vests are here to denounce what politicians and unions failed to achieve over the last 40 years. We're not here to replace them, but to tell governments the road to take.
These farmers have seen their quality of life worsen over the years.
I'm really passionate about what I do, otherwise I would have stopped a long time ago. Or I would have put a bullet in my head. I'm not joking, it makes me shiver. It's hard, but I'm going to try to pull through.
Olivier believes in the European project, but he wants competition to be fair across the continent. Many in the Creuse feel neglected and hope Paris will acknowledge the importance of rural France. Our France 24 Europe tour has begun here in France. Next stop, Italy and Milan, where we'll be looking at the issue of migrants and how authorities there are dealing with the crisis. It has stirred much controversy since the new government, populist and far right, has taken office. See you soon.
Well, as Clovis said, next stop on the France 24 Europe tour is indeed Italy. It's the 4th biggest EU member by population. Just to give you some facts and figures then, Italy is, like France, a founder member of the European Union. It's home to 46.6 million eligible voters. Together, they get to pick 73 members of the European Parliament. Now, in 2018, the national election ended with a coalition of anti-establishment populists of the Five Star Movement and the far-right Lega party. One of the major political battlegrounds has been over immigration. At the end of last year, the government passed a controversial law seen by many as being anti-migrant. Here's that report from Clovis and the team.
Groups of migrants gather day and night at Milan's central train station. Boubacar left Guinea 2 years ago after his parents were killed in street protests. It was a long journey to Italy.
From Sicily, we got here at the train station. I was with my wife, who was pregnant at the time.
The couple were lucky enough to find a place in a welcome centre, unlike many migrants who have to sleep rough on the streets.
You have some who smoke and sell drugs. Some girls turn to prostitution. I can't live around this. I don't want to stay.
Last year, Interior Minister Matteo Salvini passed a new decree to beef up police checks. With Boubacar's application for political asylum turned down, he could be forced out of Italy at any moment. Gift fled Nigeria 3 years ago and now lives in a flat owned by the Catholic charity Caritas.
Here's my bed. And this one is free because there's no one. And this is my daughter's bed.
She is one of 120,000 migrants who obtained a humanitarian protection permit. The 23-year-old used it to go on a catering course. But now, the government has replaced that type of visa with shorter residence permits.
Things are very difficult because some of us, we don't have where to go, we don't know how to start, so it is very difficult for us.
The new laws introduced by the far-right and populist government mean charities are also worried. Authorities are planning to regroup the current 146,000 asylum seekers in larger centres. And they've already slashed daily allowances from 35 to 18 euros per migrant.
It's true that even in our structures there are less people. But I'm sure that Caritas and Cooperativa Farsi Prossimo will try their best to find other way to help people.
The far-right Lega Party argues that Italians must come first, which means cracking down on immigration by all means.
We paid NGOs and charities up to 5 billion euros in total for a system that enabled 700,000 migrants to stay in Italy. Regardless what Salvini, the mayor of Milan, or Matteo Renzi want, these 700,000 migrants came here and never integrated.
Polls indicate that over 30% of Italians may vote for Salvini's far-right in the upcoming European elections. The Interior Minister has vowed to push back those trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea, and he's calling for other European countries to take in a larger share of asylum seekers. You've just seen the situation of migrants here in Milan. Next, we'll be heading to Slovenia's capital, Ljubljana, with a report on a very different issue. The country is becoming a leader in Europe in digital innovation and technology, but not everyone's benefiting from these positive changes. See you soon for the France 24 Europe Tour.
And we will pick up with Clovis in part 2 of this programme. Back to Brussels for now, though, for a look at Europe behind the scenes. As I mentioned before, one of the major tasks of MEPs is to scrutinise proposed laws and make amendments that the rest of the Parliament will later vote on. Now, that process involves speaking to all kinds of interested parties, including various lobbies and their lobbyists. There's a lot of suspicion around how much power these lobbyists have, though, and there have been moves recently to make things more transparent. Our Brussels correspondent Alix Le Bourdon has been investigating.
Lobbyist and MEP, both integral cogs in the EU's machinery. Françoise Grossetête is a French member of the European Parliament representing MEPs' views on laws to do with medication. Today, the lobbyist is representing a charity that helps child cancer patients. This is an uncontroversial meeting about a subject that has wide support. But MEPs like Françoise often face suspicion over their meetings with lobbyists, such as when it's with a representative of one of the big pharmaceutical companies.
For lobbying to be acceptable and accepted, it's important to meet with everyone. That's because MEPs need to have as broad and objective a view as possible. And afterwards we close the door and we write the laws.
Stéphane Dessellas has headed his Brussels lobbying firm for 15 years. 10% of his work is for charitable causes like today, for no fee. Sometimes he meets with Françoise Grossetête on behalf of corporate clients, such as health insurance companies. He says even lobbyists have to avoid conflicts of interest.
We don't work for pharmaceutical laboratories. We couldn't work pro bono for these charitable causes, and also for a company whose aims were diametrically opposed.
Lobbying in Brussels has a murky reputation. Up till now, the only guidelines were the EU's Transparency Register, a list of 11,000 interest groups representing 80,000 people and causes. In the name of transparency, the European Parliament voted in January to register all meetings between MEPs and lobbyists, a change that had already been adopted by Europe's Greens group, the move initiated by the German MEP Julia Reda.
I think there are a lot of misguided fears about what this rule will mean. For example, one argument that I have heard often is that, oh, I will not be able to talk to people in the elevator anymore. And this is, of course, not the case. The rule means that scheduled meetings that you agree in advance have to be registered.
A big step, but not full transparency. The rule only applies to the rapporteur, who present draft laws to Parliament, not MEPs at large.
Well, before we leave you, a word on the rather emotional way that the European Parliament's leaders have been hoping to drum up more votes at this year's election. Turnout is a big issue, the idea being that the more people turn out and vote, the more representative the final result. Now, turnout has been low compared to national elections for many years. It was just 42.6% in 2014. This year, the Parliament is hoping that perhaps pulling on voters' heartstrings might do the trick. They've released this promotional video showing new babies being born all around Europe, with a voiceover telling us from the second we come into this world, we're in it together. It is certainly being seen, with tens of millions of views online already. Take a look for yourselves.
Each of us can leave a mark, but together we can make a real difference. That's why we vote. Today, I'm being born. Choose the Europe you want me to grow up in.
Well, that's it for part one of our programme. After the news update, we will be back with news from Central Europe, with concerns about media freedom in Austria, attempts at a digital revolution in Slovenia, and more fake news debunking. See you in part two.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.
New technology, the latest innovation and its impact on a digital society.
Didn't even know about it.
Tech 24, presented by Julia Seeger and Dhananjay Kadilkar on France 24 and France24.com.